Greetings, Sci-Fi fans. My name is Ben, and welcome back to the bench for our final episode here on our Raider ATST for Sci-Fi Wednesdays. That's right, guys. We are going to go ahead and finish off this kit today. It's been a long time coming, many weeks here on the bench, but I think we are finally ready to go ahead and wrap up the entire project. Now, in terms of the model itself, we don't really have a lot left to do. We have to include a net here on the side of the leg, and we also have to go ahead and apply a little bit of splash mud, a little bit of thick mud, and then maybe dust everything with some buff. Shouldn't be all that difficult to do. The actual plastic base is more or less good to go, but I'm going to add a little bit more greenery here and there, just throw on some bushes or something from my Army Painter set, and I think that's going to be perfect. And this is actually the base that I've got kind of set up, and it's more of like a podium. The plastic base from Bandai will fit down right inside of this. And to be honest, guys, I'm not a woodworker, so this was fairly difficult for me to do. I don't really do this sort of thing, but I do have it pretty much set up where I want it, and the base does fit up inside, so I'm happy with it. We're just going to have to go ahead, glue this together, maybe add some pins in it to make sure it's not going to fall apart, and then we can stain it and we can throw our parts in it, and we are done. So hopefully this is going to go all right. So on the back of the wooden podium, I drilled a small hole, and that's going to be where our switch is going to go. And I've actually drilled it just deep enough and just narrow enough to go ahead and accommodate the switch and that little collar that kind of protrudes out right by the toggle. So I think that's going to be perfectly fine. So you can see we'll have a little switch back here, right, left, on, off type deal, and I think it'll be good to go. Now in terms of the switch itself, this is a very tiny little switch, and I did drill out the inside of the hole a little larger diameter than the outside of the hole, so I can go ahead and fit the larger switch body through. And once we have this set up, we can go ahead and throw the nut right on top of that, go ahead and crank that down, and I think it'll be nice and snug. But of course, I still have to sand, I still have to go ahead and stain, and there's a lot of other little steps and parts before I can even install the switch, so I'm not too concerned about that for right now. But it's good to know that this will fit, and I think it'll be a very nicely functioning little toggle switch. So let's go ahead and jump into our very first time lapse, guys. We have a lot to do, so we're going to start in with the net. We're going to grab some easy line, we're going to string that up, we're going to then go ahead and kind of dust the entire lower half of the model with some buff by Tamiya. Then we're going to apply some thick mud, and we're going to apply some splash mud. That's going to hopefully have a little bit of interest there. And then finally coat everything with a nice coat of Winsor Newton flat, unmask all the lights, and we'll give it a test. So I think that's going to be a good plan. Let's go ahead and jump into that first time lapse, push forward, get this thing one step closer to being finished. Let's do it. Alright everybody, we are back, and I have to say that was actually a lot of fun. Never really used splash mud or thick mud or anything like that before. Not really sure how good it is, but I like it. It's fine for me. I went ahead and rigged this back up to our little LED tester, and as you can see, the lights are all working, so I'm happy with that. Now, of course, what we have to do is we have to focus on the wooden podium, and that's going to be a little bit more challenging to do because, like I said before, I'm not really a woodworker. That's going to be a little bit challenging, but I think we jump in there. I have a couple of ideas. Let's see what I can do. Alright everybody, so off camera I went ahead and I glued my base all together, and I went ahead and stained it with a cherry colored stain. And honestly, I think it looks pretty nice. We've got the hole in the back here for the switch. We have a couple of little issues here and there, but I'm not too worried about it. Overall, it looks fine. I sanded it down, did a couple of different layers of sandpaper, and I think this is actually pretty sweet looking. So now we have to go ahead and fit plastic base on top of the wooden base. And actually, the wooden base has shrunk a little bit. So we're going to have to go ahead and sand down the plastic just to go ahead and drop it down inside. But once that's in, I think we'll be ready to rock. Now, in terms of the battery pack, we have a couple of options. We can glue it to any of the side walls I really want, on the left side or the right side, but I'm probably going to go ahead and glue it to the front side. And that's going to give me plenty of room to go ahead and switch out batteries if need be. I'm just going to hot glue it. I thought about maybe screwing it in there, but I thought, nah, it's not like it's structural, so I'm pretty sure that we don't need the extra screws. We can just go ahead and hot glue it and it's going to be fine. But of course, we'll have to go ahead and tie that into the switch, and I'm going to go ahead and do just what I did on the Kelvin. I'm going to install the switch after I wire it up, of course, and then we'll just push it on through, and I think it'll be perfectly fine. So let's throw the ATST onto the plastic base, throw the plastic base onto the wooden podium. Now that I kind of have everything where I want it, we're going to go ahead and work on the electronics. So we're going to install the switch, we're going to solder up the wires, we're going to go ahead and install the battery pack, and we're just going to see what we can do to get everything all finished up. So wiring, soldering, get that switch installed, get the battery pack installed, see how it goes. So back into that time lapse, guys. This should be the last time lapse here for the entire video series. Let's rock. Alright everybody, we are back, and after that time lapse, we are finished with our ATST. Now I did a little bit of work off camera, and I added a couple shrubs and a little bit more static grass to the base, but other than that, everything is wired in, everything works. Here is the 1/48 scale Bandai Raider ATST. Now this is actually one of those builds where I had a lot of opportunity to try new techniques. First time ever doing static grass, first time ever using tarps in this kind of fashion. The switch on the back does work, it's nice and secure, toggles on and off, so that's good, and everything else just kind of fell right into place. So you can see we have the two red lights, we have the one white spotlight, flip that on, we can flip it off when we're done with it, and it works. Now on the underside, as you can see, the wiring is very simple, there's not really much to it. Single battery pack with 2 AA batteries, we've got one black wire, one red wire, so negative and positive, and we've got a switch, and that's it. Everything else is pretty simple. So you can see we have a little bit of lateral movement with the turret, so we can kind of position it where we want. I like it somewhat facing forward and the legs kind of canted off to the side. I think it's a pretty ominous stance. Of course, this being a Bandai kit, all the parts and pieces went together beautifully. I didn't have any trouble with anything. All the fit was immaculate. I did have to do a little bit of alteration, of course, to get the LEDs where I wanted them. So I did end up cutting out a lot of stuff, and I didn't do any of the interior work, but it doesn't really matter because you're not going to see it. Everything is buttoned up and it's really just meant for that red light. The box itself could have been a little bit better, but again, I'm not a woodworker, so it is what it is. I did have an opportunity to try and use a lot of these different basing products like the Army Painter shrubs, assortment of small, medium, and large. I've got 7mm, 4mm, 2mm static grass, and I think everything went together beautifully. It adds a nice little bit of contrast. We've got some 3D effect coming up off the base with these Army Painter shrubs. I'm happy with it. So that is it for us. We have finished the Raider ATST here on Sci-Fi Wednesdays. I'm not really sure what I have coming up. I have a lot of kits I'm interested in building, not really sure which way to go yet. So I'm going to go ahead, figure out what I want to build. If you guys are interested in seeing anything specific, go ahead and toss me down in the comments below. But until then, you know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on the next brand new episode of Sci-Fi Wednesdays. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you soon.